I got no time for games.
Hello, my name is CanadianShogun, and I currently have over 500,000 mastery on Graves. Here are some things I wish I knew before choosing to main him.
Dead man walking.
Graves' passive makes his auto attack shoot 4 individual pellets, increasing to 6 on crit. These cannot pass through units or enemy structures, and they pack a huge punch. His Q, end of the line, a mini nuke that shoots out in a straight line, then comes back in a T shape. This is his main clearing tool and source of damage. Smokescreen, his W, causes enemy champions or wards within the circle to not be able to see outside of it. This ability alone has kept Graves relevant in recent years, functioning as a budget blind. Quick Draw, his E, allows you to access grid, which gives armor for each stack stacked. He gains 2 for dashing at enemy champions. These stacks last for a total of 4 seconds, with his auto attacks reducing the cooldown quick draw by 0.5 seconds for each pellet hit. Collateral Damage, the ability that made me fall in love with Graves, and I'm sure made you click on this video. If Q is the mini nuke, then this is an ICBM. It not only nukes the first person hit, but also their entire ancestral bloodline. Graves' playstyle is similar to Master Yi. He wants to farm hard, get levels, and item power spikes in order to win the game. Yet where Graves differs is that he has one of the fastest and healthiest clear speeds in the game. Graves likes to bully and invade the enemy jungler, using his early game health advantage and range to kite and outflank enemy champions. Graves' Smokescreen is not only as annoying to play against as it is fun to use. It will cause you to either win or lose team fights, or make the enemy ADC decide it's time to disconnect. This ability requires the most skill to master out of all of Graves' abilities, but is the most satisfying when pulled off correctly. Come late game, Graves becomes the bringer of death and destruction, offering any squishy or tank who dare oppose him a quick and painless death, as his shotgun tears through flesh and armor the same. He has a severe learning curve in order to pull him off to his fullest extent. He has a lot of skill shots and combos that must be mastered before being able to carry games. Graves' auto attack range clocks in at 425, not just the lowest range marksman, but one of the lowest range champions in the game. Those currently lower than him are as follows: Urgot, Lilia, and Rakan. This makes him have to get right up in the enemy's face to do his damage, making his playstyle risky to pull off, while making most new Graves players feed. With this kit, it is no secret or shock that he is vulnerable to crowd control, and if caught by a stun or knockup will most likely die. In terms of the early game, levels 1 through 5, Graves is probably one of the weakest duelists in the game. He loses most early game 1v1s against enemy junglers. Every fight you will either have to mechanically outplay the enemy, or die trying. As any jungler, Graves relies on his team. If they don't rotate to help you kill the enemy or do objectives, you die. He only begins to win after buying his first or second item, depending on the matchup. His playstyle is not forgiving. If you ever fall behind or neglect farming, you lose. If you go into fights behind, you become a peel bot, smokescreening assassins that dive onto your team in an attempt to blow them up, or using smokescreen to block off choke points or the enemy ADC's line of sight. Graves sucks against tanky champions. You would think that with a shotgun you'd be able to melt champions like Malphite or Zac, yet this is simply not the case. These champions will beat you to your knees and keep you there till you're spamming the FF boat. Graves can't compete with early game gank heavy junglers. He must pray that his team doesn't feed and can make it to his item power spikes before the game ends. Yet all these mild and compare to Graves' weakness to AP. He excels against enemies that do 80 damage because of his ability to stack armor. But come magic damage, he'll die quicker than an ADC face checking a bush. You'll see many Dianas, Amumu's, Evelyn's, Echoes, and Lilias, all picked against you. These champions will make you wonder why you even play Graves and why magic resist doesn't negate more damage. Graves isn't a tank or engager, leading this to be his greatest weakness of them all. Since jungle is one of the only 3 roles that tank or engage can be reliably picked, picking Graves can often be a liability, with more often than not your team choosing to draft no frontline or engage, making you question why you don't just one-trick a tank to diamond. In conclusion, Graves pairs best with players that aren't little bitches. If you're a KDA player or just hate going in, Graves is not for you. For what he lacks in early game dueling potential, he makes up for in his excellent clear speed and gank availability. Graves' kit also means he can evade whatever the heck he wants. His dash is on like an 8-second cooldown. Combined with his W, he becomes even more slivery than a greased up pig on Thanksgiving. Smokescreen, the ability that has kept Graves relevant through numerous patches. The use of this ability separates the children from men. A well-placed Smokescreen can win you a team fight. It can also cause summoner spells to be used. It acts as a budget blind where the enemy can only see what is inside the circle. This causes the most frustration when playing against them, as the only counterplay is to burn summoner spells, dashes, or simply walk out of it. Graves' item Power Spike provide him massive amounts of damage and burst with a sizable amount of carry potential. Getting an early kill or even an item over the enemy jungler marks the beginning of the end for the enemy team. He snowballs hard and fast. Graves' damaging abilities are all area of effect, allowing him to not only blow up the person directly in front of him, but also the person 6 blocks away. Graves is a fucking bounty hunter with a big ass shotgun. If that's not enough to want to main him, I don't know what it is. Overall, I would say Graves has a unique playstyle, which is a steep learning curve for most newer players and junglers. As with any champion, learning to carry takes hours of practice. Graves is one of my favorite characters to play. With over 500,000 mastery on him, I can confidently say I do not regret my choice. And blowing up enemy characters is still as satisfying as it was when I began playing him. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want another video where I go over how to play him in teamfights, mid to late game, his builds, and when to go each, or anything else, leave a comment down below. I hope you have a wonderful day.